Hi everyone, good afternoon or good morning, depending on what time zone you're in. My name is Susan Dentino, aka Coach Susan, and I'm here today with episode 3 of our CACR course and just learning some things to make you be the best CACR you can be. So what we're going to be talking about today is readings, and we're going to incorporate the questions that you've asked. Thank you so much for those of you that have posted questions, because it really helps me to know what you're interested in and what you would find most beneficial. One of the things too I noticed in the comments is people asking for other subjects to be addressed, and I really appreciate that, and I'm taking everything under consideration. But because I am a teacher, I'm an author, I'm certified in just about everything Doreen Virtue offers as far as certification goes, a Reiki master, I'm a reconnective healer level 3. I have all of these things in my bag, but when I teach, I follow a strict way that I feel is going to be most beneficial to you. So what I'm really trying to do is approach this with a logical sense of things that will help. So just know that I'm taking everything that you're saying into consideration, and all the topics that you want me to discuss, I will discuss. So I will make sure I keep you posted each and every week. I'm going to be keeping to this time as much as I possibly can, and I'll let you know what subjects are coming up. Also, for those of you that might not be able to catch the whole thing or want to re-listen, this will be posted on my YouTube station, Susan Dentino. And one more thing that I'd like to tell you is I noticed a few people posted more reading type questions there. During this hour, I won't be addressing reading type questions. I do mini readings during my radio show, which is the night shift. It's on every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on W4CY.com. It's an internet radio show, so anybody can listen to it. I do mini readings during my show, and I also do mini readings in my moon broadcasts, which come on Facebook Live every new moon and full moon. And the next one is coming up April 10th, and that's 7 p.m. Eastern as well, 4 p.m. Pacific. So I certainly want to address those mini readings, but I really feel for this course that we're working on together that I really want to address the questions that you will all have. So what are we going to do today? Well, today we're going to focus on readings, and I know you have your CACR certification and you've got information on doing that. So a bit of this might be a bit of a review, but also I'm going to address some of the questions that came up about doing readings. So we're going to begin with that. Okay, so there's all different types of readings, and you've decided with your menu, as we discussed last week, what readings you're going to do and how you're going to do these readings. Are you going to be doing in-person readings? Are you going to be doing email readings, phone readings, chat readings? How are you going to do that? Once you know how and what you're going to be doing, you're going to start looking at getting prepared in each and every time that you do a reading. So we're going to start with that, the prep work for getting ready. Well, first of all, you want to have all your tools. What is it that you're going to be using? Oracle cards. Okay. What deck are you going to be using? Now, personally, I have a countless number of decks, and what I usually do prior to my reading, I usually start this about 15 minutes before my reading, as I start seeing if I'm getting any intuitive hits about the person's energy that I'm going to be working with. And I usually do, and that helps me to select what decks I'm going to be using. And from there, then, I'll start getting a little bit of information. That's why I keep it very sacred right before I'm doing any type of reading. And this goes for whether it's an email, phone reading, no matter what kind of reading I do, I prep myself in that way. I usually select 2 or 3 decks. And again, it depends on how long the reading is, how much I get to. So I make my deck selection. That timer that I know I've talked about each and every week, I have that close by so that I can really give my client the right amount of time and keep myself on schedule. So as I mentioned, always set your timer if you have a 15-minute reading for a few minutes prior to when the reading's supposed to be done. So you would set your timer for around 3 minutes. Okay, so doing something like that. Now, once you've selected your cards, you want to make sure that they're all cleared. And just a brief review about clearing your oracle deck. What you do is you take your oracle deck, you put it in whatever hand is your non-dominant hand. So for me, it would be I'd put it in my left hand, knock on it with my right, and then each and every card you just go through very quickly. And what you're doing is putting your energy in this deck. Why would you do that? Well, if it's a new deck, you want to do it for sure. If it's a deck that maybe your client got overzealous and picked up the cards and started looking at them, or if you're feeling like your readings are a little bit foggy, this is why you would clear it. Once you've done that little, go through with the cards, what I always do is I take the cards and fan them over my heart and set an intention that these cards give me the most guided advice that I can possibly give that's going to assist my client. Now, one of the questions that I had come up is that what if you're looking for a yes or no answer? Well, a great deck for that is Angel Answers. That's by Radleigh Valentine and Doreen Virtue. And what you can actually do with that deck is divide it. It has time, it has words, and it has yes or no answers. And what you can do is if you feel that's going to come up in a reading, divide the deck out and have the yes or no little portion of the deck set aside. So if you want a quick yes or no answer, you've got it ready. Okay, so we've done all of this prior to beginning our reading. We've got our timer. We've made sure that everything is clear where our cards go. Now, again, all the time thinking about our client, having our client in the back of our mind. What I like to do is set an intention, speaking of the client, that the angels are going to bring me the absolute best people and people that are going to really benefit from what I have to say. And I really visualize these people. And again, depending on where you're doing the readings, and we are going to be talking about that, whether you're doing them in your home, whether you're doing them at a psychic fair or a new age store, wherever you're doing your reading, you want to set that intention. If you're going to be doing multiple readings, one right after another, at something like a psychic fair or at an angel party, you want to set that intention on your way. Looking and seeing that all the people that the angels are bringing you for your readings are going to be really very agreeable clients, okay? We really want to make sure that everybody the angels are bringing to us are happy to be there. Now, one of the questions that came up in this regard was somebody saying, well, they've got a client that came that was one of those people that was sitting there, and you could almost feel this going on energetically. It was like, show me. It's like they want you to prove to them that you can predict the future or you can get answers for them. And when I see these people come to me, they come in almost like a set of armor, and I can feel it. And I think we can set intentions, but I feel like this will happen because it's going to give us experience. And I find that when I set my intention and ask the angels to bring me positive people and people that are open, the majority of people are like that. But every once in a while you'll get somebody like that. And this is where it's so important you put your ego in a whole nother room, because your ego is going to make you start getting nervous and thinking, oh my gosh, because again, you're feeding off that person's energy. So that's going to start, affecting your energy. So all you can do is just get to that quiet place, and whatever comes, just trust and tell the person. And they might tell you it makes absolutely no sense, and in your mind and in your heart, and I'm talking about your divine mind, you're giving them heartfelt information that is coming from a divine place. So you release the outcome, you give them, usually I find these people come for short readings, if they come at all, and that's how you handle it. Like when you get nervous, focus on service, right? So you just remove the obstacles, just know that whatever message is meant for that person will get through, and there's going to be times that this is going to happen. More times it won't, because you've got your angels bringing you the best people, but it's always best to be prepared. Now, as we're getting ready to do all of this, another question somebody brought up was that, okay, why do we need protection? Are we protecting ourselves from whatever spirits are going to be coming to us to give these readings? No, that's not what we're doing, okay? When we talk about energetic protection, what we're talking about is protecting ourselves from the energy of our clients. And again, we're not saying that our clients are negative or anything like that. What it's saying is that what we're doing is sacred. We are getting information, and remember, we are the channel. We're just bringing in this information. It's not coming from us personally. It's coming from whatever higher power wants to get a message through to your client. So what we're doing is just bringing our aura in. Remember, I'm going to stretch my arms out. You're not going to be able to see it. But when you stretch your arms out, you should be able to feel that auric, just the tension, the pressure of that auric field. And it's egg-shaped around you. And you always want to make sure it's exactly there. This is your brilliant light that surrounds your physical body to keep you protected. And then one of my favorite protection techniques is to take a rose and put it in front of that auric field. The rose can be any color, any size, open, closed. I always find that the color usually, for instance, if I'm doing a reading where I really feel that I've got to be very safe, secure, maybe doing a psychic fair, something like that, often that rose will be red, tied in. I always feel they're tied into my chakras. It'll be tied into my root chakra. You're safe. You're secure. What you do is with that rose, you might even freshen it up. It might change colors during the day. That rose is presenting a positive energy to any energies that might be coming to you. So that's my belief in the way this protection technique works. You want to ground yourself. Beautiful roots growing out of the bottom of your feet. Now, why do we do that? Because we are going to be working, so to speak, in the ethers, especially if you're doing angel readings. Our energy is going to be going, up. So we want to make sure that we stay grounded. So what we're telling our clients makes sense to our clients. So just, visualize those roots growing out of the bottom of your feet, deep into Mother Earth. I've created a whole crystal castle in the center of Mother Earth. And there's a big crystal, and I wrap my roots around that. Sometimes I'll pull some energy up from there if I need it. But again, this is why you want to take some time before you do your readings, just to prepare yourself. So it's not that you're feeling that any spirits that you're going to be bringing in are going to be negative or things you have to be concerned about. I think the question was in relation to using a tarot deck and how that would be impacted. Are you protecting yourself from something negative there? Not at all. What you're doing is protecting you. Okay, you're protecting yourself. Okay, so you've got your oracle cards picked out. You know what type of reading you're going to be doing. You've got your timer. Everything's all protected. I always like to call in the 4 big angels, as I say, and that is Archangel Michael, Archangel Uriel, Archangel Gabriel, and Archangel Raphael. I ask Michael for protection, Raphael for any healing myself and my client might need, Archangel Gabriel for allowing me to be very communicative and give my client the information in the best way, and then Archangel Uriel for any clarity that might be needed while we're doing this reading. So I bring them in, call my guardian angels in, any ascended masters that would like to join. Again, doing all that is prep work before I get ready. So now you're doing your reading. Again, you're protected. Another important thing to do, and again, this is all about your energy, each and every reading that you do, and obviously you're going to wait for your client to leave. Each and every reading you do, you want to cut your cords because you have established an energetic connection between you and that person. So what you're going to do is just, I usually do it like this, almost like a karate chop kind of thing, and tend to do it in the back as well. And what you're doing is you're releasing this person with love and light. You're saying, I have my energy, you have yours, cutting my cords, and I'm letting you go with love and light. So that's basically the gist to doing your readings, okay? Deciding on how you want to do them, what type of readings that you're going to be doing, and how you're going to protect yourself Sometimes what I'll do is, especially if the client is a new client for me, I will explain a little bit about what I'm going to do prior to the reading. You know, what I usually do, and I know this is probably not something a lot of people do, but when I do my readings, I like to face my cards to my client. I don't know why, it's just the way I do it. It's just the way I've been guided to do it. And I'm so familiar with all of the decks that it's not a problem. As soon as the card comes up, I'll know what that card means to that person. But again, any way that you're comfortable doing it. I really don't like my clients picking up the cards. I don't say too much about it prior. I usually find they don't do it. Every once in a while, they might want to help you at the end and scoop up your cards. But for the most part, they don't touch them. So when we're doing readings, and this was another question that came up, what happens if somebody asks you a question and the answer that you get makes absolutely no sense? Well, I would invite you to tune into my radio show, because that happens to me a lot. Not a lot, but it happens to me enough that I know exactly what you're talking about. This again is where you have to trust. And I know this was a question too, or a comment. How do we learn how to trust? How do we learn how to really rely on that information being the best information for our client? Well, I feel it's all with experience. It's all with practice. It's all with just keeping in mind, this isn't about you being right or wrong. This is about you just giving information. Just like when you turn on the TV and maybe you don't like what's being said on the TV, but you don't blame the TV, do you? Because you know the TV is just broadcasting whatever signals that are coming. Well, that's what you're doing. You're a divine conduit for this information. So when it doesn't make sense, sometimes what will happen is that there's a bigger issue that the angels really want the person to be aware of. So say for instance, they said, okay, is Johnny my soulmate? And you pull a card and it says, eat organically. And so, oh my gosh, what does that have to do with anything? Well, what the angels are probably trying to say, and whenever we present this information, it's very kind. You know, when you might say something like, well, your angels are coming through, letting you know that it would be a really good idea for you right now to start shopping organically and starting to eat fruits and vegetables that are organically grown. And often you'll find a conversation will start, and often your client will say, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about doing that. And then, so you look at that card as something important that the client needs to know. And then intuitively, what I find is you'll get something for the client to answer the question about the soulmate, or you pull another card. Look at the colors of the cards, look at the position of the angels, whoever's in the card. Look at the symbols. There might be a dove in the card or a rainbow in the card. And even though the words aren't answering your client's question, there could be a symbol in that card that makes perfect sense. You know, you see a dove or a rainbow. Say a rainbow is a great example, and she's asking about Johnny, and that rainbow symbolizes to you that yes, this is a good relationship for her. It's worth pursuing. It's going to be in balance. All of that from just seeing a rainbow. And again, I can't emphasize enough that this comes from trust and just really allowing yourself to just give the information. I'm going to share a little story with you. When I first started doing readings, I was doing them out of my home, and this woman came, and very young looking woman, and I was new, and I was doing the reading, and it was really going well, but I kept on hearing in my head to say something to her about her 3 children. And I'm looking at this woman, and she looks like she's, you know, like 16, and I'm thinking, there's no way this woman has 3 children. So I never said anything. I just did the reading. So we get done with the reading, and she really enjoyed it, but she said, you know, I was really hoping that you would say something to me about my 3 children. So I'll tell you, that was a big lesson, because then I said, well, I was going to say it, but I didn't think that you looked old enough to have 3 children. And see, it meant nothing then because she had already said it. So again, if there's any people out there that have the slight bit of doubt, you say that then and it's like, wow, it's a little bit too late. But that comes with experience, that comes with trust, and this is all part of the process that you're in right now, is going through this whole idea of just trusting your information and just relaying the information to the person. I don't do a ton of mediumship on my own. As far as what I mean is that I am certified as a medium, but I don't, really do that. I usually refer people that are looking strictly for mediumship readings out, but it will come up sometimes where I'll be doing a reading and a deceased loved one comes in and wants to be recognized. And when that happens, I relay the information. And again, I don't worry about being right or wrong with this. I just relay the information and let them know exactly what it is that they need to know. So let me take a bit of a break here. I'm going to see if I can grab some of your questions. I hope this glare is not too bad with my glasses here. Okay, let's see if there's any questions coming up. Okay. All right. Okay, and again, I'm seeing people that are asking for readings, and I hope you did hear that I am not doing readings during this. Okay, I'm not really seeing too much, so I'm going to move on. So now we've reviewed the readings, selecting your oracle cards, clearing your oracle cards, cut your cords. One of the questions that came up was about liability insurance, and I think that I know what I wanted to say. I'll get to liability insurance. Somebody asked about recording readings, and she was at a psychic fair and she was uncomfortable with the person recording the reading. Well, what happened was, because the person wanted a record of the reading, what the person ended up doing was taking notes throughout the reading, and this woman found it very distracting. I have no problem with somebody recording my readings. I used to supply recordings, and that was a big problem because what would happen is invariably I'd have a problem with the recording device. The tape would stop. Now this was, when we were using little tapes and things like that. And so I stopped doing it because I was giving free readings because the reading didn't record or whatever. I say to people that if you would like to record my reading, please feel free to do so. When I'm giving a phone reading, I give them that option. You will get people recommending, and this could be in an email reading, in any type of reading. There's actually people that have got forms that they will have people sign, especially if you're doing healing work. That's kind of a form that, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it's a form that saying that you're not taking any responsibility for what's going on. It'll come to me, but there are people that will do that. I, again, set my intention, and I don't really feel the need to do that. When I was doing more healing work, more Reiki and reconnective healing, I used to have a disclaimer that people sign, but I don't do it now. But again, I am not advocating it one way or the other. I think it's something that you have to decide what to do. What some people will do if they know they're being recorded is to say this is for entertainment purposes only. And this being said, because you are being recorded and somebody is, you're saying things that might come back to you in some way. I can honestly say, and I've been doing this for a long time, I've had no issues with this on any level. But that being said, this is where you're going to go to your own guidance. And as we're talking this next bit about some of the things, it's going to be so much about you trusting your own intuitive advice with these things. So now talking about liability insurance. When I was doing a lot of healing work, I did have liability insurance. I believe I did it through something like Yoga Journal or something like that. Somebody had recommended it to me. It was very affordable. So what I would suggest you do is, first of all, talk to a professional. If you've got somebody that does your insurance, talk to them. Tell them a little bit about what you do and get their advice. Now, obviously, if you're talking to a professional, they're going to lead you towards feeling you should be insured. So again, this is is something that you have to decide for yourself. Right before I came on the air, I Googled, liability insurance for healers, and a whole slew of things came up. So I feel like Google is your best, your best advisor to know who to look for. I came across a yoga insurance policy that you could use for healers that was very affordable, and it was pretty extensive. So I think liability insurance, just like a disclaimer, is very much up to you. And if you have a friend or somebody that you can talk to that's an attorney that you want to run these things by you, I would say this would be especially important if you're doing it out of your home. And that opens up a whole, if somebody trips as they're walking into the house to do things. So I feel that it's a really good idea to investigate this. Whether or not you choose to do it, I think this is up to you intuitively. And as I said, just Googling it, there were so many different things that came up to really advise you the best way to go with it. So I think it's certainly something to consider. And again, recording, if you want to say for entertainment purposes only, if you want to put that in your email, readings for entertainment purposes only, whatever you feel comfortable doing and however that you want to handle this. Okay, so liability insurance, really investigate. The same thing with disclaimers. Now let's talk a little bit. Now you've got all these tools to use, and one of the posts in CACR said, well, I don't know about getting business cards because all the readings are free anyways, or I'm doing readings for free or something along those lines. Well, we really are getting to a point, we've talked so much about this, that we want you to know that you deserve to be paid for what it is that you're doing. So having your business card ready, having this menu ready of your services. And I think in the beginning you have to be realistic when you're new. You're trying to get out there. You want to be really affordable because you really want people to try you and see how great you are so that they're going to come back. So in the beginning, talk to some of your colleagues that are newbies, post on the CACR page and get some advice as to how they're charging, what it is that they're doing. So I still strongly advocate getting a card because I think it gives you that validation. And I think doing free readings, many of us do those for clients that, sometimes you just feel like you want to gift somebody something. And that's another great idea. Don't forget about gift certificates and using things like that. And we are going to get into talking about websites. I think I'm going to do that next week. Talk about websites and social media. Because again, as I said, I'm trying to go in order of the things that I think are important as you're developing this business. So I think we'll talk about that because I know many people have asked me about memes and things, and I think that we want to know where we're going to be putting these memes. So let's talk about, social media and websites next week. So that will be my topic next Saturday at 12 noon. So now that we've got all of these things together and we really feel like we're ready to get out there and ready to do it, and we've got our prices all set, where do we go and what do we do? Okay, I'm going to talk about psychic fairs for a minute because I alluded to those in the beginning. And for those of you that might have just joined, this is a CACR, really get your business started, that I'm bringing to you each and every week. It's Saturday at 12 noon Eastern, whenever my schedule permits, and I only say that because I travel. I am the author of Songs of My Life, Slightly Out of Tune, which is published by Hay House and available, a humorous approach to all the things that I've learned throughout my life. I do readings, I teach meditation, I have an empowering meditation course that I teach that is a trademark meditation technique I've developed. I have a meditation CD out, a children's book out. If you want to know more about me, please, I invite you to visit my website, which is susandentino.com. I do readings, and you'll see how my website is set up and how all of that is worked out. So where are we going to do our readings? Okay, and I'm going to key in payments to that as well. All right, so now talking about psychic fairs. Psychic fairs, if you're not familiar, New Age we have an Earth Spirit Expo in Buffalo, New York, and it's run by Bridges Magazine, and this is very big, and there's vendors there, healers there, everything you can imagine. And if you'd like, you can set up a table and you can do readings, okay? You pay for the vendor's table, and then you set it up in any way that you want, you promote it in any way that you want, and you can do readings there. Usually when you're doing something like that, you set it up so that you're doing, I would say for the most in a psychic fair to do 30 minutes, because you're just going to get drained. Allow yourself breaks in between, and if you're doing something like this, I really advise you to have another person with you, because it just will totally help you to really stay centered. And if there's people coming up while you're doing a reading, it can be, distracting for you. You set your little reading space up so that you've got privacy, and you have some type of form that you fill out. You've been, usually what will happen is who's ever throwing this psychic fair will have promotion. They'll be promoting you, and then you promote yourself in whatever way. This is a good way to get started. A psychic fair is kind of like doing an angel party, only you're going someplace else to do it. So it is something, again, what you usually want to find out is how the other psychics are charging, because you will find that most of the time people will be pretty consistent with the charging. Okay, so what do we do with payment? And that's been another question. Okay, obviously cash, and again, this is why it's really nice to have somebody. My daughter used to be great helping me do this. She would collect the money and keep track of all of that. Now, when I was doing these fairs, this was before, there was an option to use like that square. So I know that square is really great because my daughter, who is an artist, uses it, and I've sat and watched her at craft shows. So it's really great. The people will get a receipt from it, email receipt. I mean, it really works out well. They just sign, and it's worked out really well for her. Just keep in mind that whenever you're using anything like that, that they're going to take a percentage of what it is that you're getting. So that is certainly something, because I have found, because I always have products to sell when I'm doing these readings, because I'll bring my books out and things like that. So I'll have products. So I have found it's really useful to be able to take credit cards. That being said, you have to decide if it's beneficial for you. When you're doing your online readings, like for instance me, now if you book a reading with me now on my website, it goes through PayPal. So I'll get notified payment's been received. We set everything up. So I use PayPal for readings that I'm not doing in person. PayPal is great as well, very user-friendly, and again, they take a small percentage, but they handle everything. So again, your clients have the opportunity to use a credit card if they want to use a credit card. So this way they can pay for their reading. So we've got psychic fairs as an option for you if you want to just get out there. Sometimes, like at the Mystical Moon here in Fort Myers, Florida, at Bonita Beach, what the owner of that store does is she runs what she calls a psychic fair, the third Saturday of the month, I think it is, and she runs very affordable, I want to say it's something like $20 for 15 minutes, very affordable short readings, and it's very popular there. So you might want to investigate some of the stores around you. Are they doing anything like that? You might be able to rent space if you don't want to work out of your house to do readings out of your home. I'm sorry, to do them out of a store so that you're not bringing people into your home. One thing too is we're talking about protecting and things like that. Prior to, if somebody's coming to your house, prior to them coming, clear the energy, smudge, do things like that. After your day and you've done those readings, also clear and smudge. Again, this goes for any time you've got tons of people or any kind of people coming into your house. If you've got work being done, it's a great tool to use. You always want to smudge, clear your energy. And again, it has really nothing to do with the whole fact of worrying about, like little nasty gremlins getting in. What it has to do with is you always want everything to be fresh and vibrant. It's the same thing as cleaning your house. You get rid of the dust bunnies. So that's what you want to do energetically. So there we go. Psychic fair is a great thing that you can do. Touched on those. Now, I've had people asking me about the online psychic things that you can do, and to start out with something like that. That is, again, another great way to get out there. The way these online services work is what you'll do is you'll sign on with an online service, and you have to find out what their take is, how much money they're going to take from you, find out all of their policies. One of the things I will say is if they don't make you go through some kind of a review process, and what I mean by that is they really should have you do a reading for somebody to make sure that you know what you're doing. Now you're thinking, wow, I'd get nervous if I had to do something like that, but really what that does is that protects you, because you know that the people that are on that site, which are in some ways a reflection of you, are valid in what they're saying they do. So really, I would say that you would want to go with a site that does require you to do practice reading for them, something like that. There's, again, I Googled, there's a lot of them out there. And what was interesting is, in my little Google, I actually found ratings for the different ones. So again, this is you intuitively. If say you're a mom that's home and you've got little ones and you want to start doing something like this, doing phone readings, the way they work is that you will make yourself available and you won't see your client's phone number, they won't see yours, your phone rings and you begin to do the reading. It's usually a per minute payment, so they will pay, anywhere from 99 cents a minute to $5.99 a minute, whatever. You'll see all different price points, but whoever you're working for is what takes the money. So there's different ways you can, they will, pay you. Most often what I've seen is that you give them a bank account, and then just like any type of pay, they automatically deposit whatever you earn into that bank account. The other thing is, and I talked about this, you can put a click for advisor, and it's CLICK, the number 4, ADVISOR. And again, you can Google that and look into it. They do have a website. You can put your own button on your website where you can make yourself available to do readings exactly in the way I described. Click for Advisor has fees that they charge. You want to check that out. The only thing I would say with doing something like that is that you want to make sure that you're being promoted. In other words, it's great to have that button, but you want to make sure that people know that you're available for readings. When you're doing it with a group, what happens is that you've got the group dynamic that people are being drawn to you because of maybe somebody else. So maybe what they're going to do is try you out because they've done a reading at this website and they've enjoyed this person. They read your bio, so they're going to try you out. That's one of the advantages to going with a group versus doing this on your own. So, but these are all options for you. Like I said, if you're home in the afternoon or home and you don't mind being on call like that, it's certainly a very viable option and something that you can investigate. And going back to what I said, at the risk of repeating myself, you're going to go inward and just see, just as if you were going into any place and seeing if the energy feels right to you. I'd highly recommend that once you investigate some of these different websites, go to the website and sit with it. See how it feels to you. Could you picture your picture being up there? Is this something that you think you'd be comfortable doing? How does it make you feel? Whatever your strong clair is, remember the clairs, clairvoyance, clairsentient, feelings about things, claircognizance, knowing about things, clairaudience, hearing about things that aren't physically there. Whatever your strong clair is, go to that. Again, clairvoyance, picture your little picture there. Do you feel comfortable with it? So again, these are all very valuable options, but you have to feel great at where you're going and what you're doing, because the bottom line is this is all about integrity. This business is such a business of trust, and as you're getting used to trusting yourself and the information that you're sharing with your client, it's so important that the client can really trust you. I know in our field, we've seen stories about psychics misrepresenting themselves, and I've heard stories. I've actually had clients call me where they said, said that a psychic told them that they had some kind of a curse, and for X amount of dollars, they could remove the curse and things like that. Those are the types of websites you don't want to be associated with. So you want to really go inward and really feel wherever it is that you decide to go. So I'm going to just take a brief look at my notes and see if there is any question that was out there, and then I'll check your questions again. I think I've covered all of the questions that I saw under that CACR page. So let me just take a look here and see what we have. And again, I do have a little bit, okay. So this is from Deborah. Hi, what if you are at a fair doing readings and somebody else doing readings besides you is talking really loud and it is hard for your client to hear what you are saying? Okay, Deborah, that's a great question. Again, this is so much about where you have to get into your power. That might be where you might want to put a big yellow rose in front of your auric field. Get into your power and you know, be very comfortable in saying to the person, my client is having a difficult time hearing. If you could just speak a little bit quieter. This is really, because I know exactly what you're saying. There's not much personal space in many of these psychic fairs, and I've done quite a few of them because we do have products to sell. When my books came out, when my meditation CD came out, my daughter and I would pound the pavement. We would do these psychic fairs as well as craft shows. Now, I did do readings at craft shows, but I mean selling things, so I know how you can be one on top of the other. That's why, you know, anyway you can find some space that you can be off a bit is great. But if that's happening, then you should have no issue at all. And if you feel, there's usually somebody on site that is running the whole thing. And that would be another option if maybe you feel it's just going to be a bit awkward, is to find that person that's on site and ask them, you know, if they could just keep it down. But usually what I find happens in these things is they're like neighbors. They're neighbors for a day, you know, like Mr. Rogers, won't you be my neighbor? And usually before things start, you've developed a pretty good rapport with them, a communication with them. So hopefully that's happened, and it's easy breezy to say, you know what, I need, you're being, you know, my client can't hear, or something like that. And certainly put it in such a way that it's not at all offensive. But I'm sure you'd be able to do it. But don't hesitate. You're paying for that space just like the person next to you. So you're entitled for your client to be able to hear what you're saying. Okay. What advice can you give about oversaturation in this arena for a successful business? There are so many CACRs and more to come. Okay. Now this is getting into the whole abundance principle that the universe reminds us that there's always enough for everyone. What I have found is that what will happen is that even though there might be billions of CACRs, you're going to bring your own particular touch to what it is that you do. You're going to bring the uniqueness of you to your readings, to your healings. Often what I find is you'll begin in one modality. For instance, you'll begin doing readings and things like that. But what I find is what will happen is people will add something in addition to just doing readings. So maybe all of a sudden you'll develop an interest in crystals and you'll start incorporating crystals in your readings. Or you develop an interest in essential oils and you'll start doing something like that in your readings. There are limitless possibilities to how you can make your readings unique. And so who you appeal to isn't necessarily who your fellow CACR is going to appeal to you. And I think that you're going to find, depending, now again, I know when you're online and you see all the CACRs online, but I bet that in your own neighborhood and in your area, there's not as many people out there doing this as you would think. So just keep in mind that you are a one and only you, just like Dr. Seuss says. So you're bringing your brand of CACR to the world that nobody else has. It's like a fingerprint. Nobody else is doing exactly what you do. And the more experience you get, you will develop this own unique quality that you have, and that's what's going to draw people around you. Remember the number 8, the sign of infinity, unlimited abundance. So there's more than enough to go around. So don't worry about that. Cancel, delete any limit thinking. Okay. Yeah, see, and here's Gemma saying, Gemma, and look at her name, right? I love crystals, thanks. You know, and this is what I have found, and it's so funny the way it's happened and evolved for me. I just began doing, a few months ago, the moon readings, and little by little, I've incorporated more and more into those readings that I do, and now I'm recommending an essential oil, I'm recommending a crystal, and I am learning so much in what I'm doing, and you know what? That brings up a good point. That is one thing I want to mention, too, when you're doing readings. Sometimes you'll be doing a reading and say you got into a bit of an argument with a sibling, all right? And you're finding that all of your readings that day have something to do with conflict in families. And the cards that you're pulling for people are cards that totally speak to you. That's no accident. Your angels are trying to get that message through to you. So often when you're doing a reading for somebody, it will also be a reading for you. So whereas you might not fully digest the information during your client's reading, you know that, oh my gosh, this is just what I needed to hear right at the right time. It's funny because when I get those hits, I'll be pulling cards and I get this big smile on my face, and I'm sure the client is wondering, okay, what's up with that? But it's exactly that I'm thinking, okay, this is the card I needed to see today. This is the card that I needed to remind me. Say, for instance, you're doing a reading and you're getting information and you don't know, that you want to share the information. Is it right? You're getting your ego in the way, and you'll pull the trust card for your client and know that that card is meant for you and know it is telling you to trust. So keep that in mind when you're doing your readings as well. And again, like I said, I'm not an expert in crystals. I'm not an expert in essential oils, but as I am doing this and teaching these things, I am learning too. So anything you want to incorporate, every time I would do healing work, I would find that I would get messages for my clients, and I knew that I wasn't supposed to combine the two. And then I thought, why not? If I'm doing Reiki and I'm getting some messages, so I'd sit down and I'd talk a little bit, not a detailed reading, but of course I would ask the client if it was okay to share, and then I would let the person know what it was that I had discovered. So again, we're going to be blending. Okay, let's see. Here's from Caitlin. Do the angels sometimes give you messages that are meant to teach you something, or are they always true? I have found with romantic readings in particular that what is said is not always what happens. Okay. I think when we're talking about romantic messages, that is a great example to use. I have often found the exact same thing. Now, when we talk about true, I believe that whatever messages we get, true versus false, are always true messages. Now, how they're interpreted by us being the readers, that's a whole nother story. So for me, what I have noticed is I was going through like the span of time where it seemed like I was getting so many women coming to me, and men too. I would say I was getting, I don't get a ton of men looking for readings, but it was enough to be noticeable. And the big question was, should I leave my significant other? Okay, this was the big question. So, we're doing the readings, and what the readings would show would be all about the person I was reading. So it would have all information that would be of benefit to them. So as the reading progressed and we talked more and more, what I would discover is there was something really that they were searching for somebody else to fulfill. Okay? So, in other words, they felt they would be deliriously happy if their mate were the type of people that like to go grocery shopping with them. And this would make them so happy, right? And we know that when we're looking for somebody to make us happy, that doesn't work, because our own happiness is our own responsibility. So what would happen in those readings is gently I would lead these people towards the idea that they had to explore what it was they were looking for and how they could fulfill that themselves without looking for it outside themselves. And what I would find is that they would do that, and there was a time I used to give like an angel prescription, and I would, like write a little thing out, and I would give them and say, okay, this is what I think you should do. And it would be something like meditation, or say it was something like that, and I would get a hit on a hobby that they should try or something that they should do. And invariably, these people would come back to me, and they'd be so much more satisfied. They weren't looking for that outside person to complete them. That is one of my most hated lines from a movie, from Jerry Maguire, "You complete me," because nobody should complete you but yourself. Once they came to that point, what would happen is often the relationship would improve because they weren't nagging, they weren't looking for their significant other to fulfill what it was that they were supposed to fulfill for themselves. There were times that once they reached that point, they moved in a different direction and the relationship was no longer working. And they didn't have to ask me or any reader, is it time to leave? Because they just knew. They knew. I always feel like if they're asking that question, they're not ready. You know, so that is what I find. So I hope that answers what you're asking. They're always telling you the truth. It's open to interpretation, and that's the way that you would get around something like that. You're always giving the client the information that is going to be best suited for them at the time. Okay, let's see. Yeah, my favorite line is, "You had me at hello." And you know what? That is true. That's a great one, because guess what? It's two people that are complete in themselves meeting each other. Okay, let's see. Okay. Yes, Aaron, you can use that. Angel prescription. I have actually, you could create a little pad, and again, going back to like Vistaprint or something, you could create even a little like tablet of paper that you have handy. And see, I'm a writer. Again, I'm somebody that always likes to put words to paper, so I'm a writer. So, and just jot it down, and then it looks kind of funny. I mean, not kind of fun, not funny. And then you could have like your pertinent information on the bottom, so if the person wanted to get back to you, they see. But yeah, it's interesting, because I forgot that I used to do that, and I did a lot more in-person readings at the time. Right now I'm primarily doing online, as far as like I do video readings and phone readings, so not so much. But I always summarize my reading. I always do this with what I feel is the most important takeaway for them. You know, like I read somebody a few days ago, and the most important takeaway for that person was self-nurturing. So I'll always emphasize, because what you're going to find, and for those of you that tune into my radio show, you will see this. It's so interesting. I'll pull a card for everybody at the beginning of my radio show, and that card will be up there. And more times than not, we will have a theme for the show where it'll come up like something like self-nurturing, and it'll be going over and over again about that topic. So I really feel it's important you summarize your reading with one takeaway. And certainly feel free to use that. I'm sure there's tons of people using Angel Prescription. I think it's a great idea, and something to just hand the person if you feel comfortable doing that. Okay, let's see what else we have. When a client gets the listen card and they question if they should be hearing the angels, how do you explain to listen with your heart and what you should hear? That's a good question. Okay. When we are talking about something like that, first of all, again, the first thing I recommend is meditation, because we want to get to that space where we want to quiet our mind and allow these messages to come in. And then the big question is, how do we know this is divine guidance versus just my mind talking? And I will use this example all the time. When I'm doing readings, I hear what I hear in my own voice. Usually what will happen is the words might be a little bit different, the expressions are a little bit different, but it's not like I'm hearing some booming voice that sounds totally different. I hear my information in my own voice. So keep that in mind. What I will say to somebody that's trying to discern the difference between the chatter of the mind and divine guidance is that divine guidance always comes from a place of love. Your angels are always going to give you a message that somehow, some way makes you feel better. So even if it's something like they feel you should clean up your diet, detoxify, something like that, it's going to come in a gentle, loving way. So to me, to make it very simple, what you will say to yourself when you're getting this information is this information coming from a place of love, or is it coming from a place of fear? That question that the Course in Miracles always reminds us to ask. Is this coming from a place of love or a place of fear? When it's coming from a place of love, it's divine guidance. Let me give you a quick example. Say you're in meditation and you get a phenomenal idea. And this is, some fantastic invention, and it just kind of floats through your mind, that you're going to create the keys that nobody ever loses, okay? And it floats through your mind, and you're so excited and inspired by this idea, and then all of a sudden, hey, this is stupid. How are you ever going to be able to do that? What makes you think that you can create keys that can't be lost, okay? Now, you got the inspiration. That's the divine guidance, that idea. That came in. You can do this. Now the chatter of the mind and the ego kicks in and tells you all the reasons why it won't work. And that's fear-based, because you're going to have to put yourself out there to create these keys. And now your fear-based thinking is pulling that away. This, like anything else, takes practice. And writing is a great tool to use. You can do like automatic writing, where you sit down and ask a simple question. What do my angels want me to know today? And then just jot that down. And I know we're starting to get almost at the hour point, and I do want to mention that, because I know that sometimes people will just come up and say to you, what do my angels want me to know? And that can sometimes be off-putting, because there's not specific question there. Just go with it, because those actually ended up being my favorite readings. And one thing I do in the beginning of my in-person readings is I usually join hands with the person before I start the reading. I close my eyes, and it's amazing. What I love now when I'm doing readings is, more times than not, I really don't even need to use the cards. The cards will validate what it is that I'm saying, but you will get the information so quickly just by really holding their energy. Now, there are people that aren't comfortable. I always ask them, do you mind if I hold your hand or something like that? But this gives me a really beautiful way to begin my reading. And I always hug. I'm a big hugger. At the end of the reading, I give them a hug, and I always, my heart to theirs, and, wish them the best and thank them for coming. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that to you as well. So, I see that we are at 5-1. Let me see. Do you assign a phone? Oh, you know what, Tracy? I have done that, and I have found that it really works out great. It depends how long the reading is. If I'm doing like a 30-minute reading, I can usually get everything in one frame and send them that. Sometimes if it's a longer reading, I'm not able to do that, but I think that's a great idea to include in your reading, to just take a picture of the cards and send them along, because they can't see them. They might not be familiar with the deck that you're using. So I would say a yes to that. That, I think, is a wonderful addition to whatever reading that you might be doing, taking a picture and adding it. Okay, Catherine, well, thank you for telling me my website should be up and running. I've been having some work on it. It's funny, this seemed like it happened last week, but I would say keep trying, and right after I get off this broadcast, I will double check and make sure it is up and running, because, yes, I know my web guy has been doing some work on it, but it's supposed to be making it faster, not being invisible. So thank you for pointing that out. And I find that some browsers, for some reason, there's been a problem with it, but I'm glad you're letting me know, and it certainly should be available. Okay, well, here we are at 1 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining me. I will get this Facebook Live up and get it on my YouTube station as fast as possible. I will be on next week, same time, same place, and we'll be talking about websites, and we will be talking about We'll be talking about websites, and we will be talking about social media. I just had a text come in, so kind of multitasking. So yes, I am hearing that for some reason my website isn't coming up, so I am going to check on that immediately. Really, the one thing I want you to remember as you're in this process, that you are exactly where you're meant to be, and you're doing the best you can, and all of this is going to come to you as you're developing your own business in the most incredible way. So just know that you are a powerful light worker, and all of this is going to really bring joy into your life. Thank you so much for tuning in. I got to look into that website. I will talk to you next week. Have a great day now.